Now on BBC News, the winners of this year's Nobel Prizes in Physics and Chemistry discuss the potential and the risks of AI. From the Royal Library in Stockholm, Zainab Badawi presents Nobel Minds.
In this programme, this year's Nobel Laureates in Physics and Chemistry tell us about the benefits and pitfalls of artificial intelligence. This is Nobel Minds 2024. Nobel Laureates, this is the first time that some of you have been brought together in discussion on television, and we're also joined by some of your family and friends as well as students from here in Stockholm. Before we start, let's just give them a really big round of applause. Renewed congratulations to all of you. I guess you're all getting very used to the sound of applause now, aren't you? So tell me, how has winning the Nobel Prize changed your life? Who shall I start with? Gary?
Well, the level of attention is something that's 1,000x what it ever was for other awards. It's just, the Nobel is it's a brand, and it's 120-something years of history to completely mesmerizing.
Daron, one of the economists, what about you? How's it changed your life?
I mean, I'm here. Well, being in Stockholm for 1 week in December, that's a life-changing event, but I'm amazingly grateful and happy, honored, and I'll take it as it comes.
Your diary is going to be super full from now on. You're going to be running around from lecture to lecture and guest appearances. So, Professor Geoffrey Hinton, what about you?
Yeah, it makes an amazing change. I get huge amounts of email asking me to do things. I luckily have an assistant who deals with most of it. I get stopped for selfies in the street, which is, it's very annoying, but if it went away, I'd be disappointed.
But also, you've been teaching for many years at the University of Toronto, and you said after you won the Nobel Prize, they at last gave you an office.
Yes, they didn't think I was worth an office before that.
James?
I've noticed that people take what I say much more seriously. I've always proceeded on the assumption that no one was ever actually listening to anything I said. So now I have to really choose my words carefully. Yeah.
And does that extend to your family members as well? Do they listen to what you say now?
I'd have to think about that one.
David Baker.
Well, actually, a highlight has really been this week, and having all my family and colleagues here. It's been a great celebration. And yeah, I've had to give up email, which has been a positive, and I've learned to completely avoid selfies. So, but on the whole, it's been very exciting. And
you don't travel light, do you? If I can put it that way. Just remind me, how many people have you come with to Stockholm?
185.
I think that must be a record. I'm going to have to check, but I'm pretty sure that must be a record. Well, it's quite a party you're going to have. And Sir Demis Hassabis?
Well, of course, it's been an honour of a lifetime, and to tell you the truth, it hasn't really sunk in yet. So maybe I'll do that over the Christmas holidays. But it's also, an amazing platform to talk about your subject more widely, and have to think about that responsibility in the coming years.
OK, let's turn now to the awards that were made this year, and let's start with the Physics Prize. And here's a brief summary of the research behind that prize.
This year's Physics Prize rewards research that laid the foundations for the development of AI, enabling machine learning with artificial neural networks. John Hopfield created a structure that can store and reconstruct information. Geoffrey Hinton built on his ideas and made it possible to create completely new content with the help of AI, so-called generative AI. This opens up numerous potential areas of use, for instance by providing techniques for calculating and predicting the properties of molecules and materials. Their research has also prompted extensive discussion of the ethics around how the technology is developed and used.
So, Geoffrey Hinton, you actually wanted to find out how the human brain works. So, how does it work?
We still don't know. We've made lots of efforts to figure out how the brain figures out how to change the strength of connections between two neurons. We've learned a lot from these big systems that we've built, which is if you could find any way to know whether you should increase or decrease the strength, and then you just did that for all of the connections, all 100 trillion connections, and you just kept doing that with lots of examples, slightly increasing or decreasing the strength, then you would get fantastic systems like GPT-4. These big chatbots learn thousands of times more than any one person. So they can compress all of human knowledge into only 1 trillion connections, and we have 100 trillion connections and none of us know much.
But that's interesting. He says speak for yourself, but anyway, he does know a lot, actually. But
not compared with GPT-4.
So you make it sound, though, as if this is the best computer and it's never been bettered. We don't quite know how it works. And yet you also say that artificial intelligence, artificial neural networks, could outsmart humans.
Oh, I think we've been bettered already. If you look at GPT-4, it knows much more than any one person. It's like a not very good expert at everything. So it's got much more knowledge in far fewer connections, and we've been bettered in that sense.
Do you agree with that, Demis?
Well, look, I think so. I mean, just going back to your initial question, originally with the field of AI, there was a lot of inspiration taken from architectures of the brain, including neural networks and an algorithm called reinforcement learning. Then we've gone into a kind of engineering phase now where we're scaling these systems up to massive size, all of these large foundation models or language models, and there's many leading models now. And I think we'll end up in the next phase where we'll start using these AI models to analyze our own brains and to help with neuroscience as one of the sciences that AI helps with. So actually, I think it's going to come sort of full circle. Neuroscience has sort of inspired modern AI, and then AI will come back and help us, I think, understand what's special about the brain.
Will machine intelligence outsmart humans? I mean, what kind of time frame are you talking about? Are you saying it's already happened?
So in terms of the amount of knowledge you can have in one system, it's clearly already happened.
Right.
GPT-4 knows much more than any human.
Yeah.
And it does make stuff up, but it still knows a lot.
Yeah.
In terms of the timing, I think all the leading experts I know, people like Demis, they believe it's going to happen. They believe these machines are going to get smarter than people at general intelligence. And they just differ in how long they think that's going to take.
Well, we're going to start being bossed around by machines and robots. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, that's the question. Can you have things more intelligent than you and you still stay in control? Once they're more intelligent than us, will they be the bosses or will we still be the bosses?
And what do you think?
I think we need to do a lot of research right now on how we remain the bosses.
You didn't actually answer that question, Demis Hassabis. Do you think that machine intelligence could outwit us to the extent that actually they start ruling the roost?
No, well, look, I think for now, so I disagree with Jeff on the fact that today's systems are still not that good. They're impressive. They can talk to us and other things. They have quite a lot of knowledge, but they're pretty weak at a lot of things. They're not very good at planning yet or reasoning or imagining and, creativity, those kinds of things. But they are going to get better rapidly. So it depends now on how we design those systems and how we decide to sort of, as a society, deploy those systems and build those systems.
All right, so we'll look at what we do about it. But, gentlemen, this is a very big fundamental question. Gary, and then you.
Yeah, I think you're overrating humans in this. So we make up a lot of untruths as well. And there's so many examples of false ideas that get propagated, and it's getting worse, of course, with social networks. So the standards for AI to do well, it's pretty low. Humanity is way overrated.
Right. Okay. David Baker.
Humans, I'll take a contrarian view here. Humans, since the beginning of civilization, have created things that are better at them than in almost every domain. Cars can go infinitely faster. Planes can fly. Humans can't. For a long time, we've had computers that can do calculations that humans can't do. Demis has developed, programs that solve Go and chess. So we're very comfortable, I think, with machines being able to do things that we can't do. GPT-4 has much more knowledge than any human being. I think we just take this kind of thing in stride. I don't think we worry about losing control. So I guess
that's the key issue, that we know that computers can do a lot that we can't. But it's this question of control. Because, I mean, planes fly, but it's the human pilot who's in the cockpit.
That's right.
Assisted by technology, obviously, and we still drive cars.
Yeah.
What about you two, the economists? Where do you stand on this question?
I'll take the opposite position to Gary. I think humans are incredibly underrated right now. Human adaptability, fluidity, creativity, but also community. I think humans are just amazing social animals. We learn as collectives, and as collectives we are able to do a huge number of things in very quick succession. So I would worry about those people controlling AI before AI itself turning on us. Humankind's greatest enemy is humankind.
The sort of Dr. Evils that we see in popular science fiction.
Or Dr. Do-goods who think they're doing good. I wouldn't put those past doing huge damage.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, as the tools get more powerful, I think the worry is not the machines themselves, but people using the tools, misinformation, autonomous military weapons, all kinds of things.
Humans have a great track record of inventing things, that jeopardize the human race, such as nuclear weapons. I mean, just think about how close we've been to obliterating the planet with the Cuban Missile Crisis, and so we've done it already. We can do it again in a different form, or with a different. So I guess I would like to ask Demis. I take the point of view. Everyone's saying yes, we need to regulate, but who has the incentive to do that? I don't. It's one thing to say that, but I suspect the politicians and the governments, they're just playing catch up, that the thing is moving faster than they can get their hands on. And who in the private sector, they just want to make money and get this stuff out there. And so where are the incentives to actually do something about that?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, there is obviously the reason that many of us are working on AI is because we want to bring to bear all of the incredible benefits that can happen with AI in medicine, but also productivity and so on. But I agree with you, there is going to be a kind of coordination problem where I think there has to be some form of international cooperation on these issues. I think we've got a few years to get our act together on that, and I think leading researchers and leading labs in industry and academia need to come together to kind of demand that sort of cooperation as we get closer to artificial general intelligence and have more information about what that might look like. But I'm a big believer in human ingenuity. And as David says, we're unbelievably adaptive as a species. And, look at our modern technology we already use today that we sort of seamlessly, the younger generation just seamlessly adapts to and takes as a given. And I think that's also happened with these chatbots, which, 25 years ago, we would have been amazed, those of us in the area of AI, if you were to transport the technologies back we have today, back then. And yet society seems to sort of seamlessly adapted to that as well.
Geoffrey Hinton, do you see that happening? You've raised the alarm bells about humans becoming subservient in a way to machines. Do you think that there's enough of a debate at an international level? Do we need more ethics in science to debate these kind of issues? Do you see that happening?
So I want to distinguish two kinds of risks from AI. One is relatively short-term, and that's to do with bad actors, and that's much more urgent. That's going to be obvious with lethal autonomous weapons, which all the big defense departments are developing. And they have no intention of not doing it. The European regulations on AI say none of these regulations apply to military uses of AI. So they clearly intend to go ahead with all that. And there's many other short-term risks like cybercrime, generating bad pathogens, fake videos, surveillance. All of those short-term risks are very serious, and we need to take them seriously. And it's going to be very hard to get collaboration on those. Then the long-term risk that these things will get more intelligent than us, and they'll be agents, they'll act in the world, and they'll decide that they can achieve their goals better, which we gave them the goals, and they can achieve them better if they just brush us aside and get on with it. That particular risk, the existential threat, is a place where people will cooperate. And that's because we're all in the same boat. Nobody wants these AIs to take over from people. And so the Chinese Communist Party doesn't want AIs to be in control. It wants the Chinese Communist Party to be in control.
For somebody who's described as the godfather of AI, you sound quite a bit down on it in so many ways.
Well, it's potentially very dangerous. It's potentially very good and potentially very dangerous. And I think we should be making a huge effort now into making sure we can get the good aspects of it without the bad possibilities. And it's not going to happen automatically, like he says.
Well, we've got some students in the audience here, and I know that some of them want to pose a question to you, laureates. Prashan Yadava from the KTH AI Society. Your question, please.
I'd like to know in what ways AI can be put to use in bringing truly democratic values and bringing economic equalities to the world.
So, in what way can AI promote democracy and equality in the world? Who's going to answer that one? Demis, go on, have a stab.
I can start off. I mean, I think, as we've discussed actually for most of the conversation, I think powerful technologies in of themselves are kind of like neutral. They could go good or bad, depending on what we as society decide to do with them. And I think AI is just the latest example of that in that case. Maybe it's going to be the most powerful thing and most important that we get right. But it's also, on the optimistic end, I think it's one of the challenges, the only challenge I can think of that could be useful to address the other challenges if we get it right. So, so that's the key. I don't know, democracy and other things, it's a bit out of scope. Maybe it's for the economists to talk about.
Well, I'll just say, I think AI is an informational tool, and it will be most useful and most enriching for us in every respect if it's useful, reliable, and enabling information for everybody. Not just for somebody sitting at top to manipulate others, but enabling for citizens, for example, enabling for workers of different skills to do their tasks. All of those are aspects of democratization, but we still have a long way to go for that sort of tool to be available in a widespread way and not be manipulable also.
Okay, so let's turn now to some of the work that has contributed to the award for the Chemistry Prize this year for Demis Hassabis, David Baker, along with John Jumper. And let's just get a brief idea of the research that led to the Chemistry Nobel Prize Award.
The ability to figure out quickly what proteins look like and to create proteins of your own has fundamentally changed the development of chemistry, biology, and medical science. By creating the AI program AlphaFold 2, this year's chemistry laureates, Demis Hassabis and John Jumper, have made it possible to calculate the shape of proteins and thereby understand how the building block of life works. The second